to the Morning Rush, the morning call, the empowerment call for heart-centered executives and leaders, bold leaders up to make change in the world. And if you are here, you are part of that change. Thank you for being here. Thank you for making the time in your day, for getting up early or like getting your routine done or including us on your routine. And I also want to say to everyone who's here, consider what you have to share, your wisdom, your experience, where you are right now today, where you are and where you aren't is exactly what's needed and wanted here in this call today. I hope looks like we've got a smaller group, but we want to add as much value as possible. And today we're talking about our digital footprint. Before we do that, I just want to get a temperature check because I got my co-host money coach Chris here with me. How you doing this morning?
Hey, good morning, guys. I'm doing fantastic. I'm great.
Excellent. Well, I'm excited to go into this topic with you. If you're here, we encourage you to be on camera for part of the for as much of the conversation as you can, to be engaged. And we're just happy y'all are here. So we're going to dive right in. I'm really excited for this conversation because I got to see Gary Vee in person with David Rush about 6 months ago. And a lot of what we're talking about in your digital footprint today is a lot of what Gary's talking about. So he's older than I am, and yet he's on social media all the time. Why? Because it's free. It's free. Never before in the world has advertising been free. Have you had so many platforms to share yourself for free? Gary is predicting that, and it's already changing, that social media will no longer be free soon. We will all be paying in some way, shape, or form to share ourselves because we're all recording ourselves now, right? We've turned the cameras towards us. And there's as much opportunity to share as you're willing to put in. That being, and Gary's quote he's famous for is saying, content is king, but context is God. So how you share it, is it actually doing anything is important. Like you're like, yeah, I post every day. Is it doing anything? How do you know? So what we want to look at today, like the main things, like how much are you dabbling? What are you actually doing? Is it effective? And how can you measure that? Money Coach Chris, I know you've been developing a whole new brand and presence on social media and building on what you had before. How's your digital footprint?
That's a great question. So I was just thinking about that because we're revisiting,
And I
for
don't know
August.
is a acceptable answer also.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was just thinking about that because I was meeting with my team. I have a person that helps me with all that because I don't know how to do all those things and the editing and all those things. And I realized when I say that, because of all the AI tools that we have right now, it is so much easier. I just choose that that's not where I am best at putting my energy, right? So I have somebody that helps me do all that, and I'm just trusting in them that they're doing the right things, right? With the algorithms and all this and all of those things. So for me, it's more about understanding what the value is that I have by paying this person to do this. Is this valuable to me? Is my money being well spent on entrusting somebody else to help me with my digital footprint? So
Excellent. And I love that you said that even if you don't know that you have someone who does, and that can be a great way to measure that.
yeah.
Yeah. And I also, there's one other thing that you said. I just lost it for a second. It was about, oh, so we have some background noise here. I'm just going to call on Jim because your hand's up. Jim, come on in.
Yeah, the one thing I would say is there was a very large amount of money over. I think it's a huge. Texas sued Facebook because of selling our data. So when you say it's free, that just means you're the product. What you look at, what you read, what you're interested in, all your data is being sold. So if you pay for something, some of that may go away. But I think to say that advertising is free, the one thing I would add to that is recently Seth Godin's book about, so like in the 70s, 80s, and I think Peter could talk about this at a deeper level. I've been doing marketing a long time, but not as much as he has. That being said, often we forget that we have to have a compelling message. And so I just think that sometimes when we say it's free, it isn't really free. And so that's just all I think it's important to understand that Seth recently said, like in the 70s or the 80s, every product in America was made for the average man and average woman. And so now you can niche down so you have maybe 50 people and make money off of that. So I think it's really important to look at who is your client, who are you trying to connect with, and how can you help them? So that's all I have to say. And
Thank you, Jim. I think
guys.
that's great value. I appreciate the reflection and like that. What I'm getting is like the oversimplification of it's free. Yes, we are all a commodity now. We always will be. Our eye movements being studied, how our pupils reacting, like all of that. So all of that being said, you have all these platforms free, and you're right, your context, who you're reaching out to, your ideal audience, are you reaching them? And there's ways to do that more than ever, including LinkedIn and Sales Navigator. If you pay for LinkedIn, you can have the emails of the everyone on there pretty much, and you can start to really dial in and hone in. And chances are AI will be able to do some of this for us, but it's important that we know the vision of what's important to us, who we want to reach, and are we reaching those people in a way that we want? Are they engaging? One, are they seeing it? But two, are they actually engaging? Is anything happening? Do you have any, are you transferring them into clients? Peter, I have a sense you have something to share about this in the world of digital marketing and our footprint, how to measure it. Good morning.
Morning. Yeah. I don't know if I do actually. I think at the level we're talking, you're absolutely right. Know your avatar, because it just informs everything you say, every way you say, how you speak. You're absolutely right about niching down. And everybody should remember niching down involves pushing people away from you as quickly as it involves pulling them towards you. So you should be deliberately being you, and all of you, in all of your beauty and glory and vulnerability. Otherwise you're going to start attracting people that don't actually resonate with you, which makes the next part of the thing, the selling to them, really quite hard to do. So my social team tell me every day, call somebody a fuckwit please today, because that's how I speak and that's who I am. And it means that the people in my audience, I've got 250 people that pay me monthly, pay me happily, continue to pay me happily, because quite honestly, without sounding arrogant, they love me. There's no one in there that's like, yeah, he's all right, because I'm consistently who I am, and I consistently show up in the same way. And there are people that came up, there was one lady that came up to me on a stage thing and said, I really don't like the way you curse when you're on stage. And I said, well, I'd like to apologize for the first time I did it. But the second, third, and fourth, can I ask you a question? She went, what? And I went, I don't really like redheads. Would you mind making yourself blonde? And she went, that's a ridiculous suggestion. I went, curious. And I walked away. Because when I did it the first time, she didn't know who she was dealing with. But by the second, third, and fourth, she had plenty of time to leave if she didn't like how I presented. So know your own audience, And in the micro, you're completely correct. In the macro, Jim is completely correct. That is not free. You are just paying in a different form of currency, and that currency is you become a commoditized product that they can sell to other people. In the micro, it's free. In the macro, it's not. Yeah, it's interesting.
Thank you, Peter. That's a great example too. When I went to see Gary Vee speak, he dropped more F-bombs in a talk. It almost seemed like he was trying to see how many times he could get the word in a 20 minutes. I was blown away. And then I looked around and I was like, oh, I'm in a sales conference with the solar guys who are door knockers. You know, these are like what, you know, they call themselves sales bros. So he knew his audience and they knew who they were bringing in. And if you don't like cursing, you definitely don't want to follow Gary Vee, right? So I really appreciate, like, be yourself. And there's one other example of that. Before we go to the breakout rooms, I want to share, when I first started my social media presence as a personal freedom coach, I was sharing a lot of things and messages of inspiration, trying to inspire people forward. And there was one moment when I just had the worst day and I was in tears and early, and I went live just to talk about it and just see, like, what will happen if I just am real. And I had more messages come in my inbox. I got 2 new clients that day because the guy was so blown away with my ability to be vulnerable and show my emotions. And that alone is one of the things we all struggle with, right? And also the last thing, because you said authenticity and vulnerability, Peter, that's just practicing being real and practicing being yourself, I think, is important, as y'all are sharing, as you're doing social media.
I think it's super sad that you're correct, that people need to practice that. I think that is one of the biggest travesties of humanity, that we need to practice being authentic, which in some ways ironically makes it not authentic. But absolutely, you've got 2 choices if you want to succeed in any video medium. One is perfect lighting, perfect sounding, perfect script, and awesome delivery. And I'm telling you that that is a Tom Cruise level talent. That is not an easy thing, right? It is not something you can just skill your way up. You either have it or you don't have it, and it requires decades, as Ben will attest to, decades and decades of training to do that. But fortunately for everybody, the other choice is being authentic and vulnerable, and you can be as effective, if not more effective, doing that, which means you don't need great sound, you don't need great light. If you have it, $20, please get a good microphone. But apart from that, you can literally just be, Dana could literally be in her car right now and say, you know what really annoys me? And get 1,000 views. It doesn't need lighting and setting and staging and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It just needs, I've got something to share, hit live and share.
Great advice, Peter. And like you said, you know, Tom Cruise and I both trained for decades on camera. It's not always normal to be on camera and just be comfortable filming yourself. We've made that so normalized, but it is not. It's a very new thing in humanity. Just be like, oh, I'm okay with cameras all the time, right? So practice helps, and it doesn't have to be you, and you don't have to be on camera. So that's the other thing I want to share with you guys.